Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whenever you're lucky enough to be doing it too on Bushka Blitz. And I'm back with a little bit of love, affection, and, well, this is dangerous, really. I'm adventuring into the shallow waters of Tier 4. This is where I usually go and get all upset because, really, it's not, I break out in a rash. I'm a super duper high elitist, and I only roll tier 7, 8, 9, and 10, but no, I'm just joking. I roll plenty of other tiers. I just don't often make videos about tanks at tier 4. One of the big reasons I don't make a lot of videos about tier 4, 3, 2, 1, all that kind of thing is people don't often play the tanks for a long time. What they'll do is they'll go through, they'll grind the tanks, they'll get through them very quickly because the grind isn't long, and then they'll finish off and they'll move on to the big guys and they'll sell the tier 4 and buy the tier 5 with the money that they take from the proceeds. Why am I making a tank video about the Valentine then? Well, because I think this is the kind of cool tank that might actually stick around in your garage for a wee while. Now, the Valentine is already in game, pretty much anyway, as the Valentine 2. Now, that is the Soviet tank that was on the lease. It's in the Russian tech tree as a premium. And for all intents and purposes, the Valentine 2 and the Valentine itself, the British tier 4 that was added in the most recent patch, are the same tanks. There's nothing really different about them in terms of armor profile. The 2 is slightly quicker, but let's be honest, neither of them, and that's the Valentine 2 there, neither of them are going to set the world on fire. And I've got a Valentine behind me, which is like really odd because normally you don't get a lot of Valentines in game, but there you go. That may change after this video because I actually think the Valentine itself is a fantastic little tank. And the only thing that the Valentine 2 was missing was a decent gun. And that has been absolutely remedied with the Valentine's 6-pounder. Now, the Valentine 2 has a tier 2 gun. It's a 45mm 20 KL. The big problem with this is it's nearly 20 rounds a minute and has 51mm of AP pen and only does 55 damage. But the Valentine 2 has the Valentine itself, has a proper big boy gun. It's got a tier 5 gun, the 6-pounder. In fact, it's got a bunch of really solid guns. And it's got a 130mm penetration number, which is great. Really good number to be running around with. 130 pen value is excellent. And it's still got the armor profile that made the Valentine 2 such a successful little tank for me when I drove it. And indeed, I think it is a low-key seal club of the Valentine 2, or at least it used to be. And you can see there, it's not got an amazing armor profile, but it's a kind of armor profile that really plays like a big tank. What do I mean by that? Well, in the big leagues, you go to tier 10, you go to tier 8, you go to tier 7, you start seeing it with some of the tanks there. You can really angle up. You can get your armor at the right kind of angle to the target or the tank that's shooting you, and you can create bounces. You can leverage your skills into creating a better armor profile. And there's various tanks at this tier that can do it. The DW2 springs to mind as one that really does it. Tanks like the Matilda are just really big chunks of armor. They don't really have anything to do with it. They're quite slow. This is more like a top tier heavy. It's a tank that has enough speed to get to the battle, like you see doing 25 kilometers here, which is like a big slow heavy at a top tier. But you can side scrape it really successfully, you can angle it in a brawl really successfully, and it's got 130mm of pen, and it'll do 1200 DPM. The Valentine 2, which is, I keep coming back to because this is really, I've done a review of the Valentine 2. You can check it up on channel there, and it's a grand old review, and I was pretty complimentary towards it. Its big issue was the gun. Well, that's been solved, so you get another 200 DPM, you get another 70mm of pen, which is pretty crazy. Hey, it's like 60% more pen, and you get pretty much the same mobility. Your traverse is all but the same on the Valentine and the Valentine 2. You can see you've got about 48 degrees of traverse when you've got all the bells and whistles with the spare parts on the Valentine, and on the Valentine 2 you've got less than that, but you've got more than that when you get like 50 degrees of traverse when you put all the bells and whistles on it. So in a line that sadly has been a little bit maligned, not to, well, there's a lovely little bit of Yo-Yo Destroyer going down the tubes with a big 6-pound ammo rack. The Brit medium line, light line that's come up and popped up, the bit mini line, It really isn't all it's chopped up to be. And this is a light tank, and it's not a light tank's bum. And I'm playing this tank with Ouija. Ouija's running around in the A20. A really good seal clubber at this tier 2, by the way, just in case you're wondering. You can see I'm side scraping this main 1 channel here. Someone's popped on my right. Not really paying much attention to them, and that's why I take a hit. I'm really keen on clearing this ELC BIS, and that's a DW2. That's a proper 75mm German tank toting gun. Really good gun on that DW2, so you know he'll hit you for 160 average alpha, and I'm going to angle up to him. But this isn't a light tank. Like, the DW2 is the first real heavy tank we see, and this feels more like a DW2 sans the 75mm than it does a light tank. But I mean, the Matilda's in the same boat. That's not a medium's bum. And the thing I want to talk about though with the armor profile is it feels a little bit like an IS-4 in the current meta, where an IS-4 doesn't have a particularly strong frontal armor profile, but it's got good side scraping armor profile. And you can see if you expose yourself frontally, you'll still get penned by good guns, and the T-34 certainly has that. It's got a nice big alpha dose, and it can do a lot of damage. But for all that, if you are able to get 1 corridors and side scraping things, then you can really make hay with this tank. Hey, like, you can really do well, and you'll get a lot of tanks that bounce you, that are looking for shots because they hit your side armor, and your side armor does do particularly well. You've got like 60 all round, basically 60mm all round, but you can angle it up and get to 100mm if you know your angles or auto bounce zones, and other tanks will struggle penning that. I'm looking, you can see there's a Sherman V left of screen there, and the Sherman 5 has been a little bit disappointing. I've got to be honest, it's not really what I'd call a strong tank. And the Firefly, I've heard people say they're not happy with it, whereas I think the Firefly is a lovely tank for what it is. I just didn't expect it to be much more than what it was, which is a really, really good second line support tank, because it never needs to fire APCR, or if it does, and it's only because it's been up tiered and it's against tanks that no one else is able to pen, and it's still able to get the job done. What do I mean by that? Well, and this isn't a Firefly review, so I won't go into that too heavily, but it's got like massive pen, and you know, it's got the kind of pen that you get on a lot of the big big tanks at tier 8, and it's got it on a tier 6 medium tank, which means you can kind of roam the back streets, hang out near big heavies, and just make a lot of love with a tank that doesn't miss a lot of shots. You are going to struggle at times in this tank when it comes into situations like this. Like, the turret isn't incredibly well armored, but what it is small. So it's a small turret, but you don't have masses of gun depression. You really don't have a lot of gun depression. You've got good gun depression, but you don't have like 10 degrees. You've got 8 degrees of gun depression. The Valentine 2 is the one that has the 10 degrees of gun depression. But you are, for all intents and purposes, a heavy tank. And a lot of auto loaders at this tier will struggle versing this tank tremendously. I mean, this is the beautiful thing about these lower tiers too, is you get tanks that are incredibly overpowered until they run into X. Like, I took out the Cruiser the other day, the 2.5k DPM crazy tier 3 British Cruiser, not the old Cruiser. And I was killing it, slaughtering, until I ran into a game where I was a DW2 and a Matilda. And I may as well have been weeing into the wind for all the good I was doing anyone. And you can see I took a hit there for 24 hit points. I mean, not a big deal. And that's a Leopard over there. And a Leopard is an amazing tank, but he's stuck shooting into a good armor profile at range. And that means that basically he's just so combat ineffective. And I get pushed on pretty hard here, and that's all well and good. You're really role-playing a heavy tank at this tier. That's exactly what you're doing. And you can see 130mm of pen, I'm going straight through the KV-1. I'm going straight through the side of the duck, the AMX-40. I'm having no problems here at all in getting the job done. It's just sometimes you get pushed on and you get wrecked. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. We still win this one. I think Ouija cleans up, and we did enough there holding. But you really play it like a pseudo-heavy. You play it like a big boy heavy. And I enjoy that play style at this tier. And KV-1 is a proper heavy, but that's tier 5. And we're up tiered here, and we're able to hold a line against these kind of tanks. And we've got a little bit better mobility than that as well, which is kind of surprising too. It's worth running. It's worth keeping, I think. 0.385 dispersion is nothing to write home about, but 8 degrees of gun depression, which isn't amazing, but it's good. And 1227 DPM, which isn't amazing, but it's good, you know. It's the kind of tank, like, it's better than it looks DPM. It's about even with a 38T. You're about even with a AHOY, and you're behind the Covenant, but big deal. Stewart's at the tops too. Like, Stewart does really well. A20, you're right around there. I mean, these are the kind of tanks that are your competitors, they're your compatriots, they're your peers. But for the most part, you've got them on ice in terms of armour profile. And you can play this like a proper heavy tank and enjoy it at a tier where it's really not got a lot of competition for well-armoured tanks with decent penetration guns and enough mobility to actually get to the front line and affect the outcome of the battle. And I'm going to show you this one. I think this is actually a pretty close game, this one. Ouija and I are running around in the A20. That's the other thing. It works really well with a tank like an A20. We had a really great run. We had a great lot of fun. The A20, super quick, lots of mobility, got that really good burst autoloader damage, which is lovely, and allows you to cleanse targets pretty damn quick. And you can see you can angle up pretty hard with the Valentine 2. It's very low to the ground as well, which is something that you don't see a lot of or enough of in the game, in my opinion. The rest of the team is doing its level best to die here. I don't know what else to tell you. It's an exceptionally strong effort here. In all fairness, the red team have pretty much berserk pushed, but you get that on the big jobs at the lower tiers. That AMX-ELC BIS, thorn in the side, and we're now faced with a situation where it's 5-on-2. Obviously, we are up against it, and we're just trying to leverage our position out here. We didn't really do much wrong. We were pretty aggressive. We pushed out. And this is really what the tank is built for. You can see we're only hitting for 92 damage a shot, but we're kind of hull down. And this is another thing you have a problem with on these really well-armoured tanks like the Matilda and the Valentine 2 and those kind of tanks with these little pea shooter guns, these tier 2 guns. They can't pen the front of tanks like the Hetzer. You've got no such issues in a tank like the Valentine 2. I'm just trying to clear this Hetzer here, even though I'm taking hits. Starting to lose the... we've traded damage for distance, and we've done all we can with that, but, you know, you run into a brick wall eventually with it where there's just no choice. We're still getting bounces, but good move there. Really cool move by the AMX-ELC BIS. How much fun is that tank to drive? But Ouija doing a good job on the reload in the A20. He's just got to get around there. BIS obviously without a full turret. Ouija running a lovely little game here. Jiving, ducking, back and forth. That A20's after him. Ouija's going to get around the side of the Hetzer. Nice autoloader burst into the Hets. On the reload, pushing back around. Going to try and sneak it back. No, he can't. Go the Ouija, go the Ouija, go the Ouija. Azza. Come on, mate. You can do it. Oh, he's nearly got there. Keep going, mate. Don't. Ah. Bad luck, Azza. Good job. We really pulled that out. Really, really cool. And you can see, again, solid damage numbers. 1343. Lots of valiant efforts. That's the really thing that appeals to me on this tank. Tanks like the Hetzer, tanks like the DW2, tanks like the Matilda. When you're running those tanks with very small caliber guns, you just can't pen them, and you can in this. So the Valentine, if you want to run sensible tanking, play it like a heavy, and want to be able to pen pretty much everyone on the battlefield, look no further. This is a really solid little tier 4 tank, and one I actually enjoyed playing, and it's one I'm going to keep in the garage for when anyone wants to run an A20 with me or something like that. And I've run so many DW2 games at tier 4, or the Panzer B2. Those have always been my main squeezers. I used to run the Hetzer back in the day before it got nerfed. Nowadays, I'll run the Valentine just because it's a little bit different and you can side scrape your bum off in it. And it's like playing a big bad boy heavy, but at a low tier. As long as you're smart, a good player, you'll kill it. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Love your work, look after yourselves, and stay safe on the battlefield.